Hello and thank you for watching my video. This is a follow-up to my 1000 subscribers and gold giveaway competition that I set forth a week ago, asking you guys out there to comment on my video, to give me suggestions for what I should do on my channel, what videos, what guides you're looking for, and I was going to award a small amount of gold to the top three, the best three ideas that I could find in amongst the comments and some PMs that I got in game. So what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to try and cover actually most of the posts that people have taken. You know, I appreciate that you guys have taken the time to comment on my post. So I'm going to try and take the time. It's why it's a long video here. It's why I'm going to take the time to try and cover most of the topics that people seem to mention. So let's talk about one of the topics that seemed to come up a couple of times. This was to do with the fractals of the mists, particularly having fractal guides. As you've probably seen, I've actually been keeping going with the fractals, trying to cover every single map and give you guys a bit of a guide on that. I'm still going to be carrying on with that. I am also going to include, as one of the people, Brad Wilson mentioned, talking about how AR and the leveling, so AR being agony resistance, and as you proceed through the fractal of the mists, going up and up and up, because there's a maximum of 50 levels, 50 different ranks in fractal of the mists, and I might actually look to do a little bit of guide on that a little bit later down the road. Talking a little bit about, you know, what level, you know, what sort of agony effect actually happens on each particular player at each level. So the fractals are actually being done at the moment. I am trying to give a guide to that. It is a bit tricky, but we'll see how that progresses. Another popular topic was actually map completion. Several people, particularly ex-Venrus and Antonio Bailey, wanted to talk about me to look at map zone completion, because there isn't many videos out there. If you look at my leveling guide, a lot of the time I am actually doing map completion to actually level up, because I'm not leveling through crafting or Tombs of Knowledge or any other sort of normal way of leveling up. So look at my, it's going to take me a while to do, but look at my leveling guide series, and that will have a lot of the map completion. Obviously, as I proceed, I'm doing different races, so each race has their own sort of area, and so as I'm proceeding to do all the races, you will eventually have map completion for the entire Guild Wars. It may take some time, but it will come through, so that's already being done. Robert Bosajor asks, just a couple of thoughts, a video on how to earn karma, my preferred train, or the preferred way to get 100% world completion. Obviously that's to do with a bit map completion there, but I am doing I would suggest, obviously, the karma, the best way to do that would either be Edge of the Mists or also the Silver Wastes, due to the number of events in there. I might do, as part of a World vs World series, a look and a sort of montage through World vs World, which is actually coming on to my next topic, which is World vs World. So World vs World isn't my field of expertise, I would admit that. I think I'm sort of around 290 rank in that, which, it's okay, it's nothing special. I do tend to spend a lot when there's a tournament going on. When there's a season, like it was a 4-week season, the last one, and the previous one was a 12-week season. I was really heavily invested in World vs World, but when there's nothing going on, I'm on Tarnished Coast, which is one of the top 3 in North America servers. It hovers around sort of 2nd and 3rd. At a push we can be number 1, but Blackgate and Jade Quarry are the top servers in that. And I would refer you on, if you do want to learn about World vs World, there is a very good World vs World streamer called Rihanna. She's very, very good. She's on Blackgate, so I'd recommend watching her Twitch channel. But there were several people, Brian Zhang, Vincent Braga, and Christian, talking about World vs World tactics and how to be a decent commander. I'll be honest, I've never really been involved in that side. I have done a small amount of, commander and sort of going through the tactics. I'm going to look at that a little bit later. Maybe when they develop, when the new Borderland comes out, I'll look at going into World versus World. But for the moment, my primary sort of focus, I do a lot of PvP and PvE. I very rarely, at the current time, this may change, but I very rarely go into World versus World. If there was a tournament starting next week, absolutely, I'll be banging World versus World, really sort of hammering it hard. It just, I don't see the point in having these endless battles that accomplish not very much. That's just my opinion. It's, you know, I like having the competition because I feel it definitely adds to sort of, you know, the actual World versus World. But obviously you get people like me who don't play World versus World a lot coming into World versus World, meaning regular people actually struggle to get into the maps. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword, but we'll come back to World versus World at a later date. So the next topics that seemed to come up were by a couple of people, Shane Smalley and Nargol Vanir. They both mentioned talking about the lore of the races, or the lore of the living story, the living world. I actually considered doing a lore video. It was something that I was very sort of interested. I'm very much interested in lore of the Guild Wars universe. You know, I've played Guild Wars 1, I played Guild Wars 2, you know, from launch, and I actually messaged WP WoodenPototoes about this because he, I believe, is probably the foremost expert on sort of lore and creating lore videos. And I was talking to him, or I asked him a question about the six gods, because there's a lot of sort of vagueness about the six human gods. Obviously, currently you've got Dwayna, Balthazar, Grenth, Melandru, Lissa, and Cormyr. Cormyr, obviously, she took her, you know, became a god in the Guild Wars 1 Nightfall campaign by taking over from sort of from Abaddon. And Abaddon actually, it said that one of the quests, you actually find out from a guy called the Apostate that Abaddon received his powers from some other god. So that's never mentioned either. And also the fact that you had Grenth, who is a demigod, he was born on Tyria, to actually Dwayna was his mother, but he defeated, along with 7 heroes, he defeated Doom and imprisoned Doom. And I find it fascinating that Dwayna, obviously being, you know, sort of the, you know, benevolent god, but she obviously didn't like the fact that Doom wasn't allowing resurrection, and, you know, had a child, Grenth, and she's obviously had a word with him saying, you know, this is how you can defeat him. And, you know, I do think that's a very good, you know, there's lots of stories we can find out about the human gods. So the reason I've shied away from lore is because I don't feel I could do as well a job as WP, or if I tried to do a lore video, I'd probably miss a few things out. If you guys, you know, I would appreciate if you would leave any comments. If you want me to do some lore, I would try my very best to do lore videos, so I'll probably miss a few things out, but as I said, I'm always willing to learn. And obviously make corrections. But if you guys would really want me to do lore videos, I will definitely consider them if you guys leave enough feedback for me saying that you want some lore videos. Okay, so we had a few people actually mention about PvP, particularly Juan Andres, Radu, and John Swenson. Apologies if I've got your names wrong. You know, I know having people trying to pronounce my name can be a bit tricky. Looking about different individual classes or different PvP guides, you know, some guide or tips about PvP, and I will look at doing some more PvP guides. It's just my video section looking at PvP doesn't tend to be watched that much, and it's something that I will, you know, I wanted to do. It's why I actually started doing this channel, to talk about the guides in PvP. And I've actually had a couple of people message me about different builds in PvP, and so I'm going to look at doing some more builds, and I will probably go into a little bit more detail, try and explain it a little bit slower, and go into a full explanation on how to play, include some gameplay, and hopefully that'll be what a few of you are after. But some very good suggestions there. And then we actually come on to the farming sort of ideas. You know, weird farms. Mumba Man actually mentioned, Mumba Man 22, saying maybe should do a weird farm like WP tried to do on Twitch. You know, I'd like to do something like that. Find out a few different weird things to farm. Nico per game actually said, great if I make a foxfire cluster farming guide. I have to say, back when obviously people were making Mortuary, everybody was getting foxfire clusters. I am going to tell you straight away, there is a place in Or in Malcor's Leap where there's a load of elder wood logs you can go and salvage. I'll try and include a little video clip for you now. Basically, that's the best place to try and farm foxfire clusters. It's what everybody was used to do. They used to have a number of alternate characters, and they just keep logging in, logging away, and we'll collect a load of foxfire clusters. And also Zaid Woods actually mentioned it'd be a good idea, a good video you can make is on how to farm certain stuff. You know, for example, when a certain map comes out, you should review it and tell us about it, how to farm it, etc. I'm actually going to include this as one of the sort of ideas that I am going to look forward to do. I'm going to try and show you a few unique things, perhaps in the Silver Wastes. Also a few different like food items like chili peppers. You know, where can you farm chili peppers? You know, obviously they come from verdant herbs, which actually are very difficult to find because they're only limited in certain maps. They're just under level 80 map, and people don't spend a lot of time in certain maps, and it's where these verdant herbs are located. That's obviously this is where a chili pepper can cost around 20 silver just for one, so it's extremely valuable. So I'm going to look at some of the farming issues. I'm going to look at some of the farming suggestions you guys have put up there. So I thank you again for those farming ideas. So let's talk about builds. We had quite a substantial amount of people mention different build videos, be it for PvP or PvE. We had Jim Ball, Kamastrong, Aspire Series, for Gemba, Zakading, Reconik, all talking about different build videos, either PvP or PvE, and just some of the variations that you can play in Guild Wars 2. I am probably going to talk about this. I think this is going to be one of my back burner issues. I'm going to look at telling you guys, I'm actually going to make some build videos for PvE for each class, and you know, talk about, for example, Guardians can be a support build, but I also recently, one of my guildmates made a Guardian, and I actually gave him a DPS build for the Guardian because he didn't want to be a support role, and he said he's doing amazing amounts of damage on that build. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of the differences. Warrior, I've got a DPS build. Elementalist, I've got a DPS build. Necro, I'm going to bring in the power Necro build. Obviously, if you go into Death Shroud, you can do severe damage in Death Shroud. For Rangers, obviously, they've got a very high DPS. Same with the Thief. I tend not to play Thief as a DPS type build. I tend to be as a Condi Thief. But you can, you know, obviously with the daggers and sort of Heartseeker's very, very strong on that front. So I am going to look at doing some PvE builds, and obviously mentioned some PvP earlier. So try and do a bit of variation. I think it was the Spire series. He wanted to talk about a Necro. And again, for Gemba, wanted a bit of variation, like toughness and power, rather than a straight Zerker, you know, character. I'll try and do some sort of variation rather than sort of the Zerker meta. One of the other issues that, or the comments that I had, 3 various comments actually talking about jumping puzzles from Confreshi, Lingbing, or Lingbg. I don't know how you pronounce. I know there's a particular way of pronouncing that. I apologise, I can't pronounce that. And Antonio Bailey, and they wanted to talk about jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2. Now, I'll be honest, it's not one of my priorities to do the jumping puzzle video series, and I'll tell you why. I've got all the jumping puzzles, I've done them all, but I know that there are plenty of jumping puzzle guides out there. If you go to YouTube, you type in the name of the jumping puzzle achievement that's under your achievement tab, it will come up with a video guide on how to do this. And I don't see the benefit of doing them all again. However, if you guys really want me to do jumping puzzle guides, if you leave me enough comments, then I will do a jumping puzzle guide. However, I don't believe it's that necessary. I don't feel that it's that, it is a valid, there are plenty of other options out there. But again, I'll bow to sort of popular demand. So by all means, leave me some comments about that. But I probably am not going to talk about jumping puzzles or do many videos at the future. So just that's my sort of opinion on that. Okay, we had sort of a few different other sort of topics. For example, Raphael J said different ways for leveling your character for key farming rather than tomes, cooking. I will try and do something like that just because it would be nice and quick and easy. I'm definitely going to consider that. Shrews and Company, if you create some videos preparing or built upon preparing for Heart of Thorns, if you're aware of the features like precursor crafting new legendaries, I am definitely going to consider doing something like that. Obviously, I think we're a little bit far away from Heart of Thorns, so I don't believe it's valid just yet. But as we approach Heart of Thorns, I will definitely look to do a video talking about the upcoming expansion. MCA3 Exable says fashion tips. I think that would be a very divisive video if I did a video talking about fashion tips. I think it would be my opinion only, and it would be a bit like, oh, let's have a look what this guy can wear. Oh, do a little fashion roadshow in Guild Wars 2. I might. I have a lot of transmutation charges. I got like 330 odd. It's not a big deal for me to do something like that. If people want me to do a fashion show, I'll try and do a little fashion show spoof video of a little catwalk, like a char walking down, with a little fashion music going on. So that's something I'll look at as well. And Born Zombie Slayer says how I can make ascended weapons or armor. Cheapest way to get to level 400 to 500 with crafting. Yeah, I can do something like that. I have got plenty of ascended armor and ascended weapons on my alternate characters, and I've got plenty of ascended materials that are able for me to, craft an ascended armor piece or ascended weapon pretty simply and pretty easily. I'll look into doing that. I'll have to see how much money I actually have at the time, because I have been spending a lot on one of the legendaries that I'm going for. Okay, we also had, I'm going to struggle to pronounce his name, Kevzis M, and he talks about going through the basics of how the dungeons and their individual paths are, but I should take it one step further and look into how each different profession can contribute to the pug or pre-made party's maximum DPS, survivability, and just any benefactor to the team. Particularly we're doing stacking with the early and might and the wall of reflection, for against certain bosses. I've actually just included a nice video looking at wall of reflection for one of my fractal runs, fractal run 3, where we are disguised as Azura Inquest, the final part of that video. And there's Subject 6, which is an ooze, and he does a massive array of AoE effect, and having a reflect up really does negate a lot of that damage, and it really does devastate the enemy pretty quickly. The same again for the Twilight Arbor Aether Blade path. The clock hearts, having a reflector on that reflects those cogs that spin round, and it's definitely I want to talk about that because I think a lot of people are unaware when you might stack. What's the point? And when people say pop your reflect, we used to do it a lot against Tequatl to reflect a lot of the incoming damage. It isn't done so much these days, but it's definitely something I will look at considering, because I think that's definitely a very something that we don't really have any discussion with. It's just assume the player knows it. And I think a little bit of education on that might be useful. Guide on Tequatl and the Worm would be nice, since people really don't know what to do on certain past locations, specifically on the Worm. I will concur with you 100% on that. I think I will probably do a guide on Tequatl at some point. I'll be honest, I barely get the time to do Tequato at the moment, and especially the Worm. The Worm is, you need to get on a good server with TTS, but I'm going to do some world event game guides, and I think that would be useful. Really Z 50s. I find many new players unsure of what to do when they hit level 80. Maybe you could make a series about that. Endgame, that's what it is. I did do a video sort of almost a year ago talking about sort of what is endgame. But I think I'll come back to that topic after Heart of Thorns releases. Again, we had Riru Sanan saying, try to make a video about achievements. It'll be helpful. As someone who's got a lot of achievements, it would be a big undertaking to do something like this. And that is definitely going to be a back burner issue. I will come back to that at a later date. Talking about achievements is something that I know a lot about, and I want to talk about that. But just with the number of issues and the amount of work needed to talk about achievements, for example, I'm going for the treasure hunter achievement. At the moment, it's a rare achievement, and you need 2 exotic pieces of armor or weapons or equipment, and they're over 400 gold each. So it's a bit of an undertaking to get that, but I'm going to come back a little bit later to talk to you about that. We did have a couple of interesting comments. Charlie Dominguez talked about the Living Story achievement guide would be very helpful. I agree. However, there is someone that can do that far, far better than me, and that is Dulfy. Dulfy, for those of you who don't know, is someone who pretty much immediately puts any point of interest video up. She's got some very good YouTube videos. Anything that comes into the gem store, Dulfy will look into and show you. And I'll have a link in the description to her channel. She also has a website which has every guide you could possibly want for the Living Story. It's what I use. I use Dulfy's website for Living Story if I can't get past a part of the Living Story. And I think she's got an excellent website, definitely worth going to have a look at. So I don't really need to, I don't feel I need to do a Living Story achievement guide, because Dulfy does it far better than I can. Mr. Effects Production says, hi, you could do a patch note explanation and show us way to earn gold in new areas. I think the notes explanations are covered better by WoodenPototoes. He does an excellent job talking about new updates. Not only that, people like him, Matt Visual, they actually play on the client, and so they can, I think they do get a little bit of a heads up about what the patch notes are going to be. If not, that's my fault, but they do a better job of explaining patch notes. However, if there is if you guys want me to talk about sort of updates that happen, I can happily do that. It's just I feel that I don't want to cover the same thing that other people do. People like Otter and Aurora Peachy, they also talk about the same sort of things. So I like to be a little bit different and not cover some of the same topics. However, if you guys want my opinion on this, I will be definitely happy to talk about it. The Her 98 Man says, maybe a series about secret things you can find in GW2, such as Easter eggs or the mystery of the Wizard's Tower. That's a series I'd appreciate a lot. Absolutely, and I would just again say that there is somebody out there who does this a lot better than me, and that is WoodenPototoes. His Guild Wars Mysteries series is extremely good. I would definitely recommend going to have a look at his channel. They are far superior to anything I can do. He is much more in-depth knowledge than I do, and so I definitely think you should go and check his stuff out. A very good suggestion though, and it's much appreciated, but again, WP has already done a lot of stuff on this, and I don't really think that I could do that any better. We did have actually one request talking about Guild Wars 1. It was Jadjok. His idea for the next video guide was him and a lot of other people he knows would really love to get the Fiery Dragon's sword skin, which you can see is actually in my main picture. He knows nothing about GW1. So if I have knowledge and some free time, could I make a full video guide about how to get 10 Hall of Monument reward points? I can definitely do that. I do have Guild Wars 1. I hadn't had it installed on my new PC for over 2 years. Pretty much the simple reason is I actually got hacked, been hacked twice on my Guild Wars 1 account. I'm not going to make any bones about it. I used a third-party application, which I needed at the time to get the map completion by scraping the side of the maps. And the only way you could see what you hadn't scraped was through a third-party application. They've obviously got a keylogger installed and hacked my account. And so when I look back in, there's like nothing on my characters. So I'm a little bit hesitant to go back in and see what's left. But I can give you a small guide on, what to do for GW1 and how to get those Hall of Monument points. And another point, my channel, obviously you probably are aware that there is a slight thing that appears at the top of every one of my videos, and that is Bandicam. Now, I've been a little bit hesitant to purchase Bandicam. I appreciate everyone's suggestions of different video recorders on there. However, I've tried Fraps and I've tried a few others. Bandicam works on my PC absolutely fine, and its recording is extremely quick and useful. I just need to purchase it. It will happen in the next couple of weeks. I do have some more videos that are coming out, and they will still have them. And I am sorry for those of you it does irritate. It irritates me. And I just, my channel's growing quite quickly and it is going quite well. I've been surprised at how quickly it's sort of developed and taken off. And so for you guys, I am going to buy Bandicam and I'll get it done. And I'll just make sure that there will be no watermark there anymore. So again, thank you for your comments and suggestions on that. But let's talk about the topic that we got the most ideas, the most suggestions from. And this was to do with Legendaries. We had Corin say, a guide to how to get a precursor. I'm going to come back to that after the Heart of Thorns patch, because it'll be if I make a video now, it'll be out of date by the time that expansion comes out. Tom Wagner, I think it's Wagner, it says, do a series about how to make a legendary weapon for newbies and how to collect all the collections. Good suggestion. Zephalax says making a legendary weapon. Jewel Dupper says, I like achievement guides and a legendary guide. Again, he also refers back to Guild Wars 1. Shrews and Company, again, race to legendaries, or the race to legendary, doing some jumping puzzles as well. Some interesting suggestions. However, the best ones I've suggested, and the ones that I'm going to actually take part in, if we look at It's the Frost, you should make a legendary ascended guide. Legendary obviously is harder to reach, and getting the materials if they're low on gold. So I'm going to look at that. But the two that I've picked out from the legendary side of this, that they were the two that a couple of my guildies actually suggested that they look the best, and so they will be receiving some gold for this. And but these are the top three that I have decided to award both 3, 5 and 10 gold. So the top three are, in third place we actually have Jonathan Bass. He says a which class to play video. They get a lot of hits, and there are a lot of casuals, himself included, who can't settle on a main or are alt-aholics who love leveling new characters. And I would consider myself to be that. As you can tell, I've got like 21 characters now. You could do a video on each profession describing their current state in GW2, strengths and weaknesses, expectations in PvE, World vs World, PvP, and from other players' opinions on playstyles, etc. I'm going to give Jonathan 3 gold for this, because this is something I have made a video on this already. However, I am going to be redoing it for the simple reason I'm going to be trying to include footage of the Revenant in my video. It's going to have to be taken from someone else, because obviously I've not played the Revenant yet. And it's going to be a difficult video to try and do, since the Revenant's not fully actually been explored by our, by the development team. But I'm going to try and talk a little bit about sort of the different play styles, because having experienced all the players, particularly at PvP, I've done, for those of you who've probably seen my PvP sort of builds, you can see that I've actually won 200 games on every single class. I've won 200 ranked games on every single class. So I have a fair amount of ideas of what, works in PvP and how they actually, sort of play in the game. Again, in PvE, I think I've done the story mode on 14 of my characters all the way through to defeating Zaitan. So I've definitely experienced sort of the different professions up to that point. So I am definitely going to do a video on this. This will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So well done, Jonathan. Thank you very much for your suggestion. It's, you know, something that I know a lot of people are, you know, sort of interested in, especially a lot of the new players, and they want to see how the, you know, how the professions differ and, you know, what's the best way to play them, or, you know, each person has a different style of playing. So that's what I'm going to talk about. The second place, and it got the most thumbs up, so that's a bit of a hint or a clue, but it's McGuine, or McGuine. Apologies again for the pronunciation on this, but he suggested do a series reviewing different unique exotics and legendaries. For those of you who haven't checked out my channel completely, I actually did a legendary video about a year ago. However, I am going to talk about the different unique exotics. For someone who's actually going for, you know, who I actually have exotic hunter, so I know a lot of I've got all the skins, so I can show them off pretty well. And I'm going to talk a little bit, I am going to do this video, and I'm going to do this video by the end of the week, hopefully, or the end of next week. And I'm hoping that you guys will actually, you know, enjoy seeing the different exotics out there. And I actually have 2 legendaries already, so I can show you them, and I can show you the rest by previewing them and just talking a little bit about each legendary and some of the unique exotics out there, because there are so many different weapons. So that will be an extensive look at some of the different skins available out there. So congratulations, you're going to get 5 gold. And what I'm going to do, for those of you who have won this, I am going to be messaging you so I can get your in-game name, and then I'll be able to mail you the gold directly. But the number one suggestion for a video guide, I picked this pretty much because it had a brilliant name for the idea for the legendary it basically is going to be crafting a legendary. But it's going to be called The Road to a Legendary, and it's going to be based on a suggestion given by Hyphy. I think that's your name. So thank you very much for your suggestion. It was a brilliant name to come up with, the Road to a Legendary. I'm going to do a series on that. I wish I'd come up with this a little bit earlier, because I'm 75% of the way to my next legendary, which is a little bit annoying, but I am going to sort of look at doing another video guide looking at the legendary, and I'm hoping that, you know, there were a lot of suggestions for legendaries, and you know, I had to pick one that sort of stood out for me, and this video guide definitely will. I am going to make a video guide to this, and this should take me a couple of weeks to do. It's going to be, I think, a few episodes in length, talking about the different sort of expectations and different things you can do to earn a, you know, sort of the legendary. There are 4 stages, you know, 4 different things you need to put in, and I think I'm going to do a video talking about each one. So there you go. That is the guides that and the suggestions that have been given to me. Thank you very, very much for all you guys' comments and feedback. Again, I'd just like to say, it's been a real surprise to me to see how you guys, the feedback I've been getting has generally been positive. I'm always, again, I'm up for constructive criticism. I'm not going to say that I'm the perfect, perfect player. I'm the perfect sort of YouTuber or perfect video guide expert. I know that, I've only started this, properly for the last month, and I'm trying to sort of develop and sort of evolve, and trying to sort of improve the things that, I know I'm not perfect on. Things like Bandicam, and, obviously things like saying too many O's and I do that a lot. It's because I'm still trying to sort of, eloquently speak a little bit better, and I'm hoping that my microphone's not too shabby as well either. But again, thank you very much for watching my video. Please leave me some comments and some feedback on what I've talked about today. I'm hoping that if I do get any excessive comments saying that I should focus on one thing or the other, I will revisit it and I will reconsider. But thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.